For those just joining, this is my brother. This is my brother Matt, who I love very much. But I want to talk to you about a lot of things, aside from the fact that you're my brother and I love you to death. And I maybe want to talk about like genetics and dark humor and how that trickles down. But one of the reasons I wanted to ask you on is because there's just been something that has been occupying my mind lately. And I think it's been occupying a lot of other people's minds, looking at the number of visitors that go to just like a Reddit site and the number of viewers on specific videos that, I don't watch the news. I haven't watched the news in years because I find it's quite biased, quite whatever. I read Reuters, I read AP. Occasionally I might look up a video if I hear something, but I just kind of, it's not, back in the, and I'm going to age us again. It's not like the Walter Cronkite days.
Whoa.
But what I'm saying is that you got just factual news. Here's the facts.
Yeah.
No opinions. I realized that I don't think that a lot of people kind of meant to go that route. But when the 24 news hour cycle came in the late 80s, Ted Turner's CNN, I think that what ended up happening was that and I don't know if there's ever been studies on it, but it makes sense to me. Sometimes, like if people are living alone, people just turn on the TV for just white noise. Yeah. And I think that maybe a lot of people thought, okay, I'll turn on the news for white noise and I'll maybe learn something at the same time. And I mean, that's what I did. I did that when I moved out on my own. Turning on CNN, it was just like, okay, there's some familiar voices, I'll maybe get smart in the end. But then over time, they just basically manipulated us with information. And you see that even nowadays, that it's like very divided. News is very, depending on what news station, people say, oh, you're a leftist. Oh, you're a rightist. You listen to this, listen to that. It's very sad to me.
Yes. We used to have to wait for a newspaper, and we want instant information now. And with the advent of the phone and everything else, it's worldwide news at your fingertips, and I don't cycle that 24 hours news cycle. Yeah.
It's scary now because there's that extra layer on top of it of fake news and AI manipulated things. And I just had a friend on the other day and we said, this is a scary time for old people because they could be duped. I'm like, it's a scary time for young people because I saw like a video the other day, which was so obviously fake. And then I was just going to go read the comments to see people pointing out this fake thing. And it was like, no, people were just fully, absolutely 100% believing it. And I was floored. And I was like, even if you told them, that person has 6 fingers, they're just like, they still won't believe it.
Young people are not taught to critically think anymore like they used to be, and to source information and to research and study on their own. They just take somebody else's word for it. And that's bad. That's not a good thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is, though. It doesn't seem to be getting any better, especially with AI. Now you have photos and videos that are just so obviously fake, and unless you had an idea, you would just take it at its word. And people are manipulated so easily now, so easily.
Yeah. And it's shocking to me how easy it is. It's like I said, there's so much. Even the other day, like mom sent me a video and she was laughing and she showed me this video and it looked like a cat sleeping, but then a man came and he sliced the cat with a knife, and it turned out to be a very good cake. But then
Oh,
there was a cat next to them that saw it, not understanding it was a cake, and freaked out and started, meowing, but standing on its hind legs. And mom's like, "Oh, look, he's so upset." I'm like, "Mom, a cat would not know, like, not under, that's like not
no.
real. Like, that's totally not real."
Yeah.
And then you went into the comments and they're like, "Oh, how dare you try to, like, basically mind a cat like that. That's animal cruelty." Like, so many comments like that. I'm like, wow, people like actually, and
Yeah.
it's just shocking to me. What's kind of crazy is that we literally have all the world's knowledge in our
Hmm.
fingertips.
Yes.
And yet, unless you go and actually seek what's real
Yeah.
and what's real, people are just so accepting. And it's like, it seems like we've gotten dumber than ever when we have
Yeah.
in front of us the ability to be smarter than ever. Like, yeah, a lot of people are
Hmm.
using AI to make funny videos. And, some of them are really funny. I'm not going to knock anybody making a funny
Yeah.
video. But
Yeah.
like for mom, she's 82 and she's using it all the time. Like every day she's like, "Oh, today I'm studying." I'm like, "Do you want to go eat?" She's like, "Today I'm studying." I'm like, "What are you studying?" She's
Studying.
like, "Oh, I'm learning about this." And she said, "I didn't have an opportunity to do that when I was younger. I didn't have an opportunity to go to school to learn this. I'm learning about it
Yeah.
now." And I'm like, "Hey, that's really good for cognitive
Yeah.
exercises for somebody her age, an octogenarian, right?" And
Yes.
it makes her happy that she's learning. And I'm like, that's actually a fantastic use of AI.
Yeah.
Like, if you couldn't afford an education, but you still
Hmm.
wanted an education, you literally you could find courses online and do all the same work and get all the same knowledge now for free.
Yes.
Um, but it's scary of all the other uses. And I do want to talk to you about all those other uses because you have several years of law enforcement experience.
Yes. I've been a police officer for 29 years total. I was a cop in Arizona for 3 years in Mesa. And most recently in Washington State, I was a police officer, a police sergeant, and a detective. So I do have quite a bit of experience in that regard. So retired recently.
You're very well qualified. And I'm not going to ask you anything specific about specific things because I understand it's like you're not working on a particular case. Like you can only
Yeah.
offer like kind of perspective. So, but I do have a lot of different questions. And I know because I've talked to your wife, like I found out that she is also very interested in this case. And that's it is an interesting thing, the Nancy
Hmm.
Guthrie case. And like I said, I'm not a true crime follower. Like if there's interesting crime cases, I might be oh, that's kind of interesting. And I'll tell you a funny story later on down the line that it involves FBI watch list. But
Oh,
I think that
is is that why you're not allowed to go back home?
um so so this case, for people that don't know about it, Savannah Guthrie is a morning personality on, I believe it's called the Today Show in the mornings.
Yes.
Her mother was living in Tucson, Arizona. How far is Tucson from Mesa?
Oh, it's probably 2 hours away, about two
2 hours
hours
away.
due south, closer to Mexico.
Would you say the terrain is very similar for Mesa and Tucson?
It is. It is. Tucson's a pretty mountainous, a little more mountainous than Mesa is, but very similar climate.
And like desert type?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, desert type
Yep.
terrain. So this was her longtime house. A lot of people will be like, "Oh, why is her mom living out there on her own?" Not here
Yeah.
to judge. That was her house for like
Hmm.
since Savannah Guthrie, like they were born there, they were raised there. That's the house her Nancy Guthrie's partner and husband, Savannah Guthrie, fathers
Hmm.
died several
Yeah.
years ago when Savannah Guthrie was 15. So this is their house. A
Yes.
lot of people I saw like on internet, internet sleuths, so many people were like attacking Savannah Guthrie, Savannah Guthrie's family,
Hmm.
saying, "Why'd you let your mom live alone?" Remember when old people are very obstinate? They like you can't really tell them anything
No.
because they've kind of feel like they've lived enough years that they don't give a shit anymore. They don't give a shit
Yeah.
what you think. They're going to do what they
Hmm.
want to do. Respect.
Very
If you've been,
independent.
yeah, if you've been around, and I also think it's their generation. They're coming off of the
Yeah.
World War II
Very
generation
tough.
where they grew up in times where there was probably you had to conserve, you had to not because it was a war. It was the middle of a war.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that they and it took me a long time to understand that. I'll be really honest because I grew up a lot of times thinking, why, we I grew up in the 80s watching, TV shows like Cosby Show, TV shows like Family Ties, thinking like, why aren't my parents like these parents? Like, why can't I like totally, mess up and something, come home and they're like, oh, here's a lesson. We have a nice talk and we end up with the ice cream and it's all cool, And I did grow up thinking, like, man, my family screwed up, right? And a lot of kids felt that way. And we didn't
Yeah.
realize it until much later when we're like, our parents didn't have that upbringing either. But this is all foreign. This is make believe. This is a sitcom written by people that wish they had this. But
Yeah.
it felt at the time like, oh, this is a representation of America. This is not my added a layer. I had an Asian mom,
There is that.
which is there
The
is
tiger
that.
mom, the tiger mom
That
factor.
oh my god, like I've got story. Like it's a wonder my mother was never arrested. Like in terms of just trying to like protect her child. It's like wow.
Yeah.
But God bless her. Like I am old enough to, and having been a parent, like I know that
Hmm.
everything that she does comes from a place deep in the heart. And
Oh yeah.
also with the tools and environment she was handed, right? Like I can see
Yes.
that now. And once
Yeah.
you realize that, like, I see a lot of people, and I don't judge anybody's narrative or anybody's life where they say that they have like zero contact with parents and stuff like that,
Mm.
and zero contact with family. And I get that. It's like everybody's got a different thing. And I said, I think that sometimes if we can put ourselves in somebody else's shoes,
Right.
and sometimes people go, oh, do they put themselves in my shoes? I'm like, they may never have been given the tools to know even how to do that, to how to put
Yeah.
themselves in someone's shoes. But if you can, and you have the ability to control your thoughts and put yourself in somebody else's shoes, and because of that, like me and her are like oil and water. But
Yeah.
I know because we're just so different. We're so different.
Hmm.
But there's the base of this is just underlying like love, right? Total love. So when I hear this case of like Nancy Guthrie's mother, being taken, it hits home a little bit for me because my mother lives next door. She's 82, not 84, but I know how fragile
Hmm.
she is despite being a spitfire handful person. Um, it's shocking. Are you surprised being in law enforcement of it's been like 57 days now?
Yes. Is surprised about how long she's been missing,
Yeah.
or
and
just
and and and
overall.
and just that there's not any kind of, I mean, and I'm not, you know and maybe you could speak more to this. I don't know the inner workings. Like I don't know how much information that the sheriff's department or the FBI is going to release. I mean, they may have a lot more information that they have let on, but from
Yeah.
the way that Sheriff Nanos, who is the Pima County sheriff, the from his press interviews, not necessarily press briefings, I guess like sit down interviews that you've
Yes.
extrapolated a lot of information from. And he seems to be very, I wanted to say open or candid, but sometimes the stories change a little, um, which I don't think has been helpful for us. So it's really hard
Yeah.
to know because there's so much information even coming from that camp. So
Well, my you hit the nail on the head because we're looking at it from the outside in, and we don't know what they know, and they're not going to necessarily tell the public all of the uh, evidence that they have because they also don't want to compromise the case. So when they eventually capture or arrest somebody that they believe is the suspect, the only person in the world other than the law enforcement authorities that will know key details of this case will be the person who was there along with Nancy Guthrie. And
Yeah.
at this point, after 57 days, we don't know if she's around anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, because one of the big things about this case was in the days following, the family got on and pled with the kidnapper, and there was some ransom notes. And Savannah gave an interview recently where she actually disclosed that they believe at least two of them were legitimate. And the one thing the family was doing before they paid any ransom was requesting proof of life. And
Yeah.
that was never given,
Yeah.
never given. Could have easily been given somehow, some way,
Mhm.
but it wasn't. So I just, I think as long as we don't know, there's always hope. But
Yeah.
being that she's 82 years old and had some pretty significant health challenges,
Yeah.
and her pacemaker is no longer connected to her phone, um, it may have been, there may have been this grand plan to kidnap her and get a nice ransom and then give her back, but it may have
Yeah.
gone awry and we just don't know. And of
Yeah.
course, that person would probably do everything in their power to hide any evidence that it did and try to disappear basically and hope that they never get caught. And they may never get caught. We may never know the answer in the end, but there were some mistakes made for sure. Um, I think in any investigation, the most important person at the very beginning of any call, of any police call, is the initial officer that arrives on scene. And what that officer observes and conveys to his superiors is extremely important. So when you get there and a lot of times when somebody calls in an elderly person that's missing, they've wandered away, they've gone somewhere with somebody else, they've gotten confused or disorientated and are typically found within a few hours because
Yeah.
somebody will find them and know that they're in distress and call the authorities. I think this initial case was handled that way, and it appears that it was handled that way, which was a huge mistake
Yeah.
because the house was in somewhat disarray. The back door was propped open, as we found out
Yeah.
from Savannah here
Yeah.
recently. There was blood drops
Yeah.
on the front porch.
Blood
That's not
spatter.
normal. That's not somebody that's wandered away and it's
Yeah.
just some innocent thing. Those are red flags that should have been the alarm should have been sounded immediately and all hands on deck and the helicopter with the thermal imaging was delayed 5 hours. Um,
Wow.
that's pretty big. Not that it necessarily would have done
Yeah.
anything, but it's just the attitude of kind of like, oh, this is probably just a standard run of the mill wandering away. But you also have to look at this is a famous person's
Yeah.
mother. And by all appearances, and Savannah Guthrie has even said this, that this is because of her name that
Yeah.
somebody took mom with the hopes of getting a big payday out of this.
Yeah. Occam's razor,
Yeah.
you know?
And and it's and I know you have a reach with famous people too, and it's details of your personal family should not ever be given out to the public because there's some weirdos out there. There's some sick
Yeah.
people out there. There's people that just that have an axe to grind or a grudge or something, and or it could be all made up in their head. You
Yeah.
don't give them anything. You don't give them anything. You don't show them where mom lives. You don't show them. what her routine is and what her bedroom looks like and what the house looks like.
Yeah.
That stuff is in today's world that should never be out there. And
It's interesting that you said this because I was trying to bring this topic up to a lot of private schools in this country and just private schools in general that like
yeah,
to advertise the school of their children, right? But at the same time, I also think now people know where to find your children. Like they
yes,
literally know where to find your children. Like I'm like again, I'm like I don't think that we should. They were like, oh, we're getting these stickers, and I was like, I just don't think that we should do that because I
yeah,
don't think that I want people to know where my child goes to school.
we
So
don't,
even
we
when I talk
don't.
about my child on the podcast, it's very general.
Yes, yes, and that's how it should be for everybody
Yeah,
to just generalities and as little information as possible. There's so much information available on the internet nowadays that
yeah,
that's a big task, but don't help anybody out
yeah,
by divulging anything. So keep those things private. Absolutely. And another thing is you've got a slew of security cameras around your house. Pay the damn fee. Get those
yeah,
things working. You should have that information on your phone. Whether it was the brother that lived nearby or the sister,
yeah.
somebody should have been monitoring those cameras and they should have been recording 24/7.
Yeah.
That's just a given. It's
Maybe
what
some
is it,
people don't
99
know
bucks a
that.
year?
I don't think some people may not know it, but like I
Yeah.
have a friend when he's over at my house, like sometimes he's checking
hmm
his phone and he's like, "Oh, look." And he lives up in northern Thailand, and it might be some strange animal that's come out of the forest or jungle, but it's caught his cam. And I'm like, "Is that
Yeah.
now?" He's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I just get a notice that something has appeared
Uh-huh.
on my camera at home," and it comes to his phone, and it's like maybe people don't realize that you can monitor a way you can monitor your parents, and
Yes.
he was like 400 miles away from being
Right.
able to monitor his home.
Yes.
I, I would
Yes.
I would say why not invest in that? Would you? I mean, I want to ask you later on down the line if you because you would know better about, but I still want to ask you more about this case about tips. So remind me if you have any tips for people on how, because it's something that I've thought about now after this case too. You start to think about home security and
Yeah.
about things like that. One of the things that has been brought up recently is that apparently the Guthrie children had told law enforcement officials that she often left her back doors unlocked. And I'll be honest, like I grew up in San Diego in a fairly good neighborhood. We left the doors unlocked because a lot of times the dog need to go to the toilet, and so it's just easy just to open. And you think we've got a fence, and it just kind of gets into that false sense of security of, oh, nothing
Yeah.
ever happens around here until it does.
Yes.
Um,
Right. And Savannah lived in a very secure area for the most part. It was safe, fairly remote.
yeah,
It wasn't a crowded neighborhood by any means. But what you just said is so true because in my job, I would see so many people because of the community that I live in that it's safe, and so people would just leave their doors unlocked. But I don't understand. You have a bolt lock, you have a deadbolt. Why not just lock your door at night? It's
yeah,
just so easy for people to try doors, whether it's your car doors or your house. I mean, just lock them. It's so easy. It's so easy, and it gives you time. So if somebody is intent on breaking into your house, at least, let's say in Savannah Guthrie's or Nancy Guthrie's case, if somebody was trying to kick her door down, she may have heard that and had a chance to call 911.
well, she did wear
But
hearing aids though.
yeah, that's true. So it
Yeah,
may not have mattered, but
which makes it even more important to lock the doors.
yeah, generally speaking, it's just one of those easy. When I walk into a house, even though I'm inside that house and I'm very confident I can defend myself, I lock the door behind me, even when I'm
Yeah,
in my own house.
yeah,
it just is an extra layer of security that you give yourself. It's there, use it. It's so easy. And I just wish more people would get out of that attitude of it'll never happen to me. I'll never be a
Yeah.
victim of this, because that may be true until you are. And it's a terrible thing to have to go through.
Yeah.
And you'll never forget it. And you'll never leave your doors unlocked again, I can promise. So,
Mom's house out in the country was like burglarized, like
yeah.
when we were not there, and they spent some time. They spent some time because she had every door locked, which I made fun of her for, because I'm like, if there's a fire, we're all going to die in this house because we can't get out of the house. She put like locks on both sides of every door. And
Yeah.
so when the burglar got in, they couldn't get from room to room. So like he just mutilated the house. He like cut through the ceilings to go.
Oh,
And
geez.
I said, and afterwards, she's like, oh, well, let's like get this all fixed up. I'll never stay there again. Like
No.
I said, somebody's been like
Hmm.
in my things. And I said, and it feels like such a violation that like, I couldn't go back. I was like, I would never feel safe here again.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but afterwards, like at this house, I mean, there's double doors, like you got a security gate and then you got another door on like everything. And I have alarms. But even more so, I've taken it to another level, which is probably manically crazy, but I've homed alone. I like home alone my house every night. I've got booby traps. Like, it's
Okay,
gonna
you might
take
be
some
taking it a little
time.
far.
Like, no, I'm not even joking. Like, I have like, if you open different things, like different alarms are gonna sound. But
Yeah.
I put things down. I've put Legos down. I'm not even joking because I am in the city. My mom lives next door, but my son has now moved his bedroom next door into my mom's condo, which now we're connected. Our townhomes are connected because he
Yeah.
got like a double room and he made like an apartment. So I'm like
Wow.
literally by myself on this side, right?
Oh,
In
wow.
Bangkok. And I'm in a safe neighborhood, but I'm going to home alone my place. And if you happen to get through all that somehow, because I'm a heavy sleeper, like when you come to the front door, like I've Legoed it, I've got a giant, I'll show you later. It's like a giant log so that if you open the door, I'm going to hear the log, like the log is going to make a loud enough sound that I'm way on the other side. I can hear you. And then, like, let me tell you about my arsenal real quick. I've got a Louisville Slugger. I've
Huh?
got a giant metal pipe with like, it was like an actual extra pipe for like when I tried to put like those guard railings in the bathroom for my mom, like if she needs to hold on
Yeah.
to it because so I had extra pipe from that. So that's under there. I have a 12-inch long bola knife from the Philippines. Like
Wow.
I've got many things. So it's like, you may kill me, but I'm going to give you like a world of pain beforehand and hopefully enough time that my mom and my son can hear all the commotion over here. Plus, I've got 19 animals and
Yeah.
don't like,
The
and
cats
one
will
of the
do it.
most vicious, no, the squirrel.
Oh,
Squirrel's
the squirrel.
vicious. The squirrel will f you up. It's part of my
Oh,
language, but the squirrel will
I
totally
I
mess you
have
up.
a scar on my thumb from your niece's squirrel that attacked me when I tried to get a little too
See,
close to Corinne.
see,
So, yeah, they're very
squirrels. Don't
protective.
underestimate a squirrel. Um,
Yeah.
One of the things that shocked me about this Nancy Guthrie case, and I wanted to get your because maybe you know more about procedures in your department. I don't want to compare it to Pima County Department, but the crime scene was just pretty much like released after it seemed like 24 hours, maybe 48 at the max, which I found
Yeah.
absolutely shocking. I'm not even in law enforcement, but I
Right.
was absolutely shocked because what's the harm? Nobody lives there besides Nancy. What's the
Yeah.
harm of preserving this crime scene for as long as necessary? Because obviously,
Somebody made the call that they felt like they had collected all the evidence and we don't need this any longer. But your point is nobody was there, so why not just leave the crime scene tape up, leave an officer? So, because this is, you don't know if it's a kidnapping is a big enough crime as it is. This could lead to much more severe charges if she is gone, if she has passed away.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things that you do not throw caution to the wind. You take all these, you go the umpteenth mile to ensure that this thing is not compromised. And it was released so quickly. And then what did we see? We saw, oh, they found this. Oh my gosh, let's reestablish the crime scene. But the problem with that is it's been compromised now, because
Yeah. Yeah.
how can you testify that anything found after that didn't arrive there later, after
Yeah.
you had initially collected
Yeah.
the evidence? How do you know some neighbor didn't go wandering through the property and leave his
Yeah.
evidence that you've now collected? You don't, and you cannot swear that this was all the evidence that was there at the time of the crime, because you don't know anymore. So another huge error was the FBI offered their assistance. Nanos refused their help. You never refuse the help of the FBI when they offer, because you may have a team of 20 guys that are going to do this investigation at this house. He's got 200. They've got hundreds that will come, and they each have a very specific task, a very specific thing they're trained to do, and they're the
Yeah.
best at it. Why not let
Yeah.
them do that? And it came across as kind of arrogant on his part, like, I'm going to solve this case. I'm going to be the hero. And it's like, you don't have time for that. There's no room for that in something like this. There's somebody's life on the line, literally. And you can't let your egos get in the way. And he's been in front of the cameras. He's contradicted himself. In my opinion, he's given way too much information out, because he's
Yeah.
telling the bad guys
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
general public, hey, if you ever commit a crime, this is how we can find out if you were there or not.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? This
Yeah.
guy is watching TV. He's watching everything, every interview you do, trying to glean any information you're going to give him so
Yeah.
he could cover his tracks. And now you're telling him you can track his cell phone. You can, it's
Yeah.
like, why did you do that?
Just hold your
It,
cards
it,
close to your vest. I didn't
it,
understand it.
it yeah, nobody did. Nobody that actually was experienced in this kind of thing understood why he was doing what he was doing. When I was doing detective work, I'd never told, I would say, through investigative means, this is how I gathered this information. I don't tell them how I did it,
Yeah.
because I don't want to educate bad guys. I don't. That's
Exactly.
not,
I mean, it just seems like common sense to me.
yes, it is. It
Just like
is.
the crime scene. I don't think that it takes anybody needing to have 30 years experience in law enforcement to say,
No,
let's just keep the crime scene a little bit. And let me ask you
right.
another question, because I mean, maybe you understand the dynamics of a police department. Do you think that there was people within the department that maybe felt like, I don't think that we should release this, but were maybe
Yes.
afraid to speak up for fear of,
Uh,
you know,
the Pima County Police Sheriff's Union has several times given Sheriff Nanos a no confidence. They do not trust him. They don't like him.
yeah.
He's removed some very experienced people from the Detectives Bureau.
And I just want to point
It,
out he's an elected. He's there from being elected,
yes,
not because
he is
he's
elected.
necessarily. It's not necessarily like somebody appointed him. He's elected. I just want to point that
No,
out. But
city
yeah, he
police chiefs are typically appointed, hired. Sheriffs are voted on. They're elected. Another thing that was peculiar with him is typically it's not him that will talk to the press for the
yeah
most part. It's a public information officer
yeah
who is trained on what they can say and what they don't say.
yeah.
And he seemed like he was overeager to get his face out in front of the cameras, given every interview he possibly could. And it's just, I
Doesn't
don't
he
know what
have
his
a
motives
show that's
are.
coming out?
I
I
don't
believe
know.
they have it.
I'm not
I
sure.
believe that they have a show that's kind of like a cops, like the cops show from the 90s, but it's
Yeah.
like going to be Pima County. And so that's
Sheriff's
kind of
Department.
interesting if, yeah, like
Yeah.
that's happening. I do want to ask you though, because you more than anybody would have more like you said, if the FBI was offering your help that you would accept it.
Should
I
yes.
was looking, I was trying to look at it from the flip side, you know, because a lot of people were talking about it, like, oh, why didn't he want to do that? And I said, well, if and I'm not talking about necessarily like accepting help or not accepting help, but you know, in the beginning, not before Nano, this is like day one or day two or day three within the first week, before we knew as much about nanos as we do. You know, I
Yeah.
was playing devil's advocate saying, well, maybe he's not, you know, if he accepts the FBI's help or lets them take over, he's basically saying, I don't have confidence in our guys, our team, the Pima County, you know,
Hmm.
Sheriff's Department. And I said, and I can get that. You don't want to say, hey, we're not up for this. However, like you said, whereas and I don't know if this is true, and that's why I wanted to ask you about this. I said, I suppose in a sheriff's department, if you are, you know, working in the sheriff's department, you have there's many different jobs under your
Yes.
umbrella. You have to go look
Yes.
at cases of robbery, cases of homicide, but even cases of a little lady has wandered away and she's got dementia.
Hmm.
Whereas these specific FBI agents, like hostage negotiation might be all one does.
Right.
Kidnapping is all one does. So that's all they do, as opposed to maybe a sheriff's department going on a refresher course once a year
Hmm.
on hostage negotiation. What I said, and I wanted to ask you because there's always that, I don't know, narrative put out there that, you know, police and FBI never work together. And I don't think that's the case. I mean, how often do FBI and police departments just like work together, no issues? I mean, and I'm not talking like, oh, one has taken over the other department. I mean, it's more common, right? I would think.
It is. Yeah. I've worked with the FBI and other federal agencies multiple times throughout my career. It just, if you're working with them, it's because the case is a big case and there's a lot
Yeah.
at stake.
Is there
And
that headbutting that people, you know, try
no,
to
not like
infer?
Hollywood, like Hollywood depicts every time,
Yeah.
like, oh, the FBI is here, we're taking over the scene. No,
Yeah.
you don't you
Yeah.
don't have that. It's
Yeah. I
more of a
wouldn't think that there
teamwork
would be.
thing. Yeah, it's a teamwork thing. The the detective in charge of the local sheriff's department that's heading up the investigation. There's
Yeah.
the FBI agent in charge. And they get together and then they say, okay, what do you need from me? What do you need from me? Okay, let's do it. And they work together as a team. There's so much at stake that you can't afford to let that get in the way. You don't, it's, I mean, there's different personality conflicts perhaps, but
Yeah.
generally speaking, these guys should all be professional with each other.
Yeah.
The FBI has experts in, um, like digital forensics, like computer forensics, blood forensics, all these different specialty fields that they will
Yeah.
have their very best on scene collecting all this evidence that's, unfortunately they came in after they reestablished the crime scene. It had been released and then the FBI came in afterwards.
Yeah.
And they actually discovered a camera that Nanos knew nothing about.
Yeah.
It's like, how come you didn't find that security camera right there?
Yeah.
Oh, we missed it. Okay. So
Yeah.
that happens. But when you have more people there helping, those things don't generally happen. You cover each other. You back each other up, it's like when we're doing a search of a house or a room, after I search a room, I would have somebody come in after me and also search the room because they may look somewhere that I didn't think of, or they may
Yeah.
see something I didn't see that somehow missed.
Yeah.
We're all human. We're not perfect. We're not robots. We don't go in and collect everything that's there. It's like sometimes, the evidence is just a strand of hair perhaps that was left
Yeah.
behind, or one fingerprint smudge that was left on a glass or something that you know, maybe a candle holder or something that somebody happened to notice and went, whoa, let's grab this. And it
Yeah.
could break the whole case. So
Yeah.
get your best people in there. Get your best people in there. And I always saw it as an opportunity to learn, because when you're watching these guys work, you learn so much from them.
Yeah.
You
Right?
really do. You really do. So that was a mistake on his part, I thought.
One of the things I noticed that was also shocking to me was that there was evidence of the blood spatter at
Hmm.
the front door. And day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, you see pictures because there's drones, there's cameras, there's YouTubers out there. You see
Right.
the doormat is still
Hmm.
there.
Yeah.
And I found
Why
that
didn't
kind of
that go to the
shocking.
lab? That should
And
have
I
went to the
found that kind of
lab.
shocking. And I thought, and some people like on the internet said, well, the CSI already came in and they processed that and they got what they needed. And I was thinking, yeah, but you don't necessarily know. I mean, I know that I've heard that there's cameras inside the house that we may not be privy to. Um,
Right.
because at some point they did try to monitor her that way, like kind of like baby cams, but granny
Yeah.
cams. Um, but we do know because we saw the video at the front
Hmm.
door that he was there. We know for sure that he was there. So why wouldn't you just take the mat? Because maybe there's probably blood on the mat, but maybe a drop of sweat fell down and you could
Right.
process it, but you never know. Like the nano world is so big. So when people are saying, "Oh, they processed the mat, it's no big deal," I'm like, it kind of is a big deal. And by the time they took the mat, finally somebody, maybe the FBI was like, "Yeah, let's just take the mat. Why not?" Right? There'd
Yeah.
already been like delivery drivers that because the crime scene was released, it had been compromised. It
Wow.
was like I
Right.
kind of was sitting there going, did Nanos never like follow the OJ case? Did he never follow like did he never watch any of like the Tommy Lee Jones fugitive movies like that? I mean, that alone could have
Yeah.
helped him a lot. Just do what Tommy Lee Jones does, you know? Another thing I was shocked about
Yeah.
was his 2 mile radius. Like 2 miles.
Yeah.
Like 2 miles. Like I'm not a law enforcement agent at all. Like, but I would sit there. The first thing I would follow
Yeah.
like Tommy Lee Jones, and I'd say I want all the traffic cameras of every traffic camera that the city owns within it, like a
Yeah.
10-mile radius from this time to this time. Let's get
Hmm.
if we have license plate readers, let's get every single license plate because
Yeah.
it's not so remote but it's still pretty
Yeah.
remote out there. Who
And
should be
it's
driving at 2 o'clock in the morning?
2 o'clock in the morning. There's not going to be that many cars to pick from. So, um, interesting thing about that OJ case that I had just learned probably 10 years ago was in the crime scene photos where they show, Nicole on the ground with her back facing up. There's a large splatter of blood on her back. Nobody collected that. Nobody swabbed it. And then her body
Wow.
got sent to the morgue, to the coroner's office, where they completely washed it down and all that evidence was gone.
Yeah.
That could have solved the whole case, hands
Yeah.
down,
To be
right there.
fair though, back then DNA was still a
Right.
relatively kind of a new thing. And even so much so as I think that because it was so new, I think that
Hmm.
the jury was overwhelmed and did not understand it because
Yeah.
I think that there was actually quite plenty DNA to have
There was a
convicted
lot
him.
of evidence. Yeah.
But
There
I
was a
don't
lot of
think that people
evidence.
understood it. Like I
Hmm.
think now, if you presented the same case now, if Marsha Clark presented the same case now, I think that very likely he would have been found guilty because people understand
Yeah.
DNA much better. But back then, people didn't understand. I
It
don't
was
think people
magic.
understood DNA.
It
Yeah,
was a
I mean,
mystery. Yeah.
I think that just people
Yeah.
did not understand. Like, I don't. What are you talking about DNA? But
Yeah.
because of that, I think people did learn. But it's like after the fact, and there's been a lot
Right.
of stuff.
But
Um,
your point is correct. There could have been just a very small amount of evidence on that mat. it was overlooked. And you know, when everybody went, oh crap, why didn't we collect that? It was when they suddenly were able to retrieve the images on the video and went, oh crap, he was standing right there. Whoa, we should have collected that. We should, oh, he went and grabbed those weeds, and oh my God, we should, it's like, why didn't you just assume that the guy had walked to the front door
Yeah.
and the back door? I mean, there's only a one way in, one way
Maybe
out.
they were distracted by the propped up back doors.
Yes, possibly, but that
But
was a huge
but
mistake
but
in
then you
hindsight.
have blood in the front.
Yeah. And this guy wasn't a professional criminal. He comes to the front door where he probably anybody in today's age would assume there's a camera there, if even if it's a Ring doorbell camera.
Yeah.
He goes to the front door, sees the camera, starts fiddling with it. Then he tries to grab some weeds from her flower garden and pulls them and tries to cover it up with those. If he was a professional and had been doing this for even a little bit, he would have brought either some tape or a can of spray
Spray
paint
paint.
or something. He's wearing a holster, and he's wearing it on the front of his waist in a front
Yeah.
draw position, which nobody that's ever been trained tactically would ever do.
Yeah.
He
You don't want
had
to
a
shoot off your junk.
revolver. No. And he had a revolver holster, but he had a semi-automatic in the
Yeah.
holster. So he
Yeah.
had the wrong holster for that gun. So it just, his demeanor, he's wearing a backpack that's easily identifiable.
Yeah.
I was thinking, well, maybe it was some cartel and they're trying to blackmail
Yeah.
Savannah, extort her, get this ransom money.
Yeah.
No, this guy was not a professional. He
Yeah.
just did not come across as that. So probably just somebody that saw her on TV, saw
Yeah.
that mom lived in Tucson. He was probably somebody that needed money for whatever
Yeah.
reason and saw that as an opportunity. So
Do
unfortunately,
you think that he acted alone, or do you think that he might have had an accomplice?
you never see another figure in the camera. So he certainly could have had another accomplice.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well,
I don't
let me
think there's any
backtrack.
indication that he would have had to, because if it's a little old lady, he was
Maybe
more
that's
than
why the door was
enough.
propped up open. Maybe
Yeah.
that's why the door was
Yeah.
propped open. But maybe she was too
Yeah.
heavy, dead weight. Maybe he thought she passed out.
Could have been. He could have carried her out. I don't know. We don't know.
What do you think of the
Unfortunately.
fact that, well, there's, I guess, two questions I have. So the Ring camera, she did not have an active subscription for the Ring camera, but somehow the makers of the Ring camera were able to get out some information despite the fact she didn't have a subscription. That's a whole nother podcast topic of like, hey,
Yeah.
like, they are watching. But what they've determined now seems to be the general consensus that there is like some still images, there's some video, there's two different
Mm-hmm.
things. But what they noticed that is they're on two different videos. On one, it happened to be the night that there was a full moon. And so in one video, there is a lot of illumination. You
Mm-hmm.
could see shadows and stuff from this kind of gritty thing. And on another one, it was complete blackness. So they believe that it is on two different nights. And then this topic of January 11th came up. And they started, Pima County Sheriff's Office started asking people that lived around there if they have specific video from January 11. So that leads me to believe that they believe that he maybe cased the joint, and they're trying again to do that whole entire thing.
Narrowed it down. Yeah.
So,
that's what it sounds like. They narrowed it down to that specific date somehow. So they somehow must have got that date from that image where he came and scouted out the situation first.
Yeah.
So,
because he didn't have a backpack on in that.
Yeah.
And so people were saying, did he, when the images were all first given to us, people thought it was all from the same day. And so some people actually talked about it and said, is it two different people? Because, one guy's got a backpack, the other doesn't. I found it really interesting that they sat there and said, "Oh, the backpack is without a doubt from Walmart, so we're going to go check out all Walmarts for this particular thing." I immediately just went to eBay. It was
And
on
found it.
eBay too, right? It was just,
Yeah.
and it took me a second, but they were like, so many news places are like, "Oh, well, we found the source of this backpack now. We're going to go down to there." And I'm
Yeah.
like, you can get anything on eBay, right? Like you could find, why would you think that you could get it from a thrift store? You could get
Right.
it from somebody discarded it. Like I wouldn't, that to me wouldn't, I would say the backpack would be something on the bottom that I would move down the totem pole of things that I would kind of investigate. Um,
Yeah.
like I said, and another thing that was very shocking to me was that the Pima County Sheriff's Department, and this was maybe a week into it, requesting neighbors to turn over their Ring camera. But they requested this publicly. And I thought, Trump just sent 450 FBI agents. Like, why are you requesting in a public statement for people to turn over Ring cameras? If you've got 450 people, it's not like there's like probably within a 5 mile radius, you might have 450 houses. That's how spaced
Yeah.
out they are. Like, why wouldn't you have people going door to door? And they might have, but like I
Yeah.
said, the way that Sheriff Nanos came out and was like, we need this from you.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
like I said, they finally found some video of a white car speeding away
Yeah.
weeks after. And when they asked the owner, "Did you turn this over to the police?" The owner was like, "Well, we're 2.5 miles outside the radius." So,
Yeah. In those situations, it could be that, everybody's got, not everybody, but people have cameras in the oddest places.
yeah.
And it could have been a situation where like, hey, you may have a camera uh, because you're watching to see if your neighbor's dog crosses into your
Yes.
property and craps
Yeah,
in
yeah,
your
yeah.
yard.
Yeah.
Well, can you please check that camera to see if you see anything going by at about 2 o'clock in the morning? I mean, I could see why he's doing that. And I bet you that they did go knocking on doors.
Yeah.
There was
It
enough,
would make
there
sense,
was
right?
enough information out there that people should have been going through their cameras. I mean, I certainly would have, because
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody in Tucson was hoping to be the one to help solve the case. So I'm sure they were all
Yeah.
looking through their
Yeah.
stuff. So, but yeah, it's kind of a bizarre case. It really is. And
I
unfortunately
thought it was
it's, you know,
strange not to use a lot of, like, there was a lot of volunteer people that said that they would search the
yeah.
Cajon Navy. I believe it's called Cajon
Oh,
Navy.
yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
might be
Yeah.
saying it
That's,
wrong.
that's the women, I believe, in Mexico that find places that the cartels have buried people out in the deserts.
Yeah.
And they
I mean,
find a
there's a lot of,
lot.
yeah.
They
And
find a lot.
I believe that they were told that we don't need your help. And like I
Oh,
said, it just seems so many things of like common sense. Like, why wouldn't you accept any kind of help?
yeah.
And time
Yeah.
is of the essence. Apparently, she's on medication. She needed this medication. Um, Initially I thought, if she was abducted, my immediate thought was, if you go into Mexico, you could keep somebody abducted and hostage while you wait for ransom quite
Yes.
easily in Mexico. And so another statement that he gave like very early on was, we don't have any, you know, evidence to think that she might be in Mexico. It's like, it's a bizarre thing to say. Like, why would you
You
rule something
just,
out?
no,
Yeah.
she could be, that's why I say don't ever give up hope until you know it's hopeless, because she could be being kept in a villa somewhere deep in Mexico and being treated and have medication and being
Yeah.
treated just fine. And she may come out of this doing quite well. Maybe this person is just keeping low now, a down low, because there's been so much information about, oh, this person who did this ransom note, we were able to track them and figure out who it was.
Yeah.
And we served a search warrant on this house because there were some fake ones that came in, and I
Yeah.
think
Yeah. Yeah.
those people got busted. So now the bad guy, the suspect, he's going to keep low now. He's like, ooh, they can, even though I, you know, encrypted and you know, everything, take all these precautions, they might still be able to track who I am. So I'm just going to go off the grid now.
Yeah.
What do I do with Nancy Guthrie though? You know,
Yeah.
so who knows? I mean, she may be being kept in Mexico. I mean, I think the border was, I think it was an hour away from where she was at. That's not
Yeah.
very
An
far.
hour. No.
So,
And a lot of
yeah,
people say, oh, it'd be really hard to get into Mexico. It's like, I'm from San Diego. It's not hard to get into Mexico. It's hard to
yeah,
get back, but to get
yeah.
into Mexico, it's like not a, no one cares.
And these people would know how to do it. They
Yeah.
already would have had a
Right.
plan, you know.
So it's
So,
like, I'm not saying that that's what I believe that she went to Mexico, but it seems so bizarre to me that Nanos would just immediately take it off the board and go, no, we don't believe she's in. It's like, you don't know anything. It's a week.
yeah,
Like, how do
anything's
you know
possible.
anything?
Yeah,
One
he
thing he
doesn't.
did do right, um, I don't know if it was him doing it right. One thing that he did do right, which then people criticized, was that I know that homicide was there early,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
right after, and people questioned that a lot. And I said, I was saying on an online message board, I'm like, well, that makes sense to me because you don't know yet if it is a homicide, but why not get the people that this is what they do and they've seen crime scenes
Yeah.
of homicide crime scenes that they could at least go, yeah, let's look into this a little more.
Yeah.
So it's funny because he did so many things wrong, but I thought that it was actually good that homicide was there and
Right.
gave it a look from the start.
And those are the best detectives. Those are the best detectives, by the way. In any department, your homicide detectives are the cream of the crop. They're the people that are the most talented in what they do. So you want to get your best out there, whether it's a homicide or not.
Yeah.
We don't know. So have the best come out and collect the evidence that's there. So
It's kind of like the version of asking the interdepartment FBI kind of guys, right?
yes. Yes.
That's what
Yep.
I wanted to ask you. If you were to get a call
Yeah.
um, of a missing person of a high profile, like how would maybe say like you handle that? Like what would be I mean general normal procedure that most people that just were quite reasonable, um, how would that be handled that might be different from how it's getting handled now?
It's the first officer on scene. He needs to get some very basic information. So what, where, when, whoever's the reporting person is, in this case, I believe it was the brother or the sister, because she didn't show up at church or on a FaceTime church or whatever the church service was. She wasn't there and she was expected to be there. So somebody went out to check and she was not home. So they called. The first officer on scene should be asking those questions. Does she have dementia? Has she wandered away before? When was she last seen? Did anything appear out of the ordinary at this premises? Anything like that? And as soon as he started seeing that the bed was disheveled, mom on the Today Show, she showed how she always makes her bed crisp and tight, taught the kids all how to make their bed. Her bed
Yeah.
was all disheveled. Um,
Yeah.
that's out of the ordinary. The blood on the
Yeah.
front porch, clearly out of the ordinary. That's a major red flag there. I'd be
Yeah.
calling every supervisor I had and say, hey, this is what I've got. This is highly suspicious. And at that point, I'd be, as a sergeant, I would say, you need to tape out, get everybody out of there. You need to write down who was in that scene, tape it off, call out detectives. Let's get them there, stat, and then
Okay.
go from there. Go from there.
That's what I
And
was wondering. Who decides we need to shut this down? So it's like, so he
yeah,
reports to the sergeant on duty or
yeah,
his
yes,
superior,
yes,
and then that
yeah,
sergeant says, tape it up, collect names,
yep.
and
Back
then
out of there.
back out
Let's
of
get the
there.
crime scene. Yeah,
So then the detectives
let's
come,
yeah.
and does CSI usually come right away?
They would be there with forensics would be there with them. Yes. Taking
Okay.
photos, swabs, fingerprint, testing for prints, using black lights, just all kinds of stuff. They've got so many different methods that they would use to check for and collect evidence. And, but but you have to have very tight controls on who goes in that scene,
Yeah.
where has this person been, who searched this area, and it's all kind of like a little grid where it's like this is assigned to this detective, this detective, and you just kind of go from there, and somebody is logging all that information as you collect it. So
And not to take away from forensics in departments and stuff, but
mhm,
forensics in Tucson may not see the same kinds of things and have the same kind of experience that, say, forensics in New York City or a forensics team in LA are going to see,
right.
correct?
Yes, that's true. It's just on experience, and you don't get experience you don't get a lot of experience in a small town. In a big city, you're going to get a ton of experience just because you're constantly doing these things and you're learning new things, and
Yeah.
you're seeing different types of evidence, and you've got the latest technology and assets available to you to collect that information. So like the city I worked with in Washington, small city, small town, 10,000 people. If we had a homicide, we would not say, oh, we can handle this and do this ourselves. Not at all. We're going to call a regional forensic team and detectives, and they will come and assist us. We have our own detectives that would take lead, but we're not going to shun anybody that is going to help us
Yeah.
out on a case like
Yeah.
that. So you always defer to those who have more experience and resources, because
Yeah.
the bottom line is you want to solve this case. There's a victim. You need to solve this case. Get
Yeah.
your egos out of the way, and let's just do this thing. However we need to do it, let's just do it.
Yeah.
And that's how it should work. It doesn't. I mean, we heard the case of where they sent some DNA blood evidence to Florida to a private lab to be tested,
Yes, because
and
he said that he
not
had a contract with them.
yeah, and not taking anything from that lab, because I understand they do very good work. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, when they test a sample, a lot of times the sample is then destroyed because they had to use it all to test it. Whereas the
Yeah.
FBI has ways to just use a portion, and they can test it for multiple different things. So
Yeah. Quantico is one of the best crime labs in the world. It's surprising to me you wouldn't utilize that if you had that
it's
option,
probably the best in the world. Probably the
right?
best. Yeah. Yeah. By far, I think. So use it. You should have used it.
Yeah.
And it was offered. It's
Yeah.
not, crime, murders and kidnappings around the country. You don't always get the FBI offered, because
Yeah.
it's ultimately the responsibility of the jurisdiction it's in.
Yeah.
Unless there's some key things like a bank robbery, the FBI would take that scene, because they're in charge of that. It's a federally protected funds. So kidnapping that went across state lines, the FBI would get involved in that. But in this case, nobody knew, but the FBI was offered anyways.
Yeah.
So it should have been accepted. It should have been taken. And I know it's easy to sit back and armchair quarterback these things, but that seemed to be a glaring error on the part of Sheriff Nanos for whatever
Yeah.
reason. I don't know what his thinking was. Maybe he believed he had the evidence that he could solve this thing within 24, 48 hours. That's
Yeah.
possible. But here we are 57 days later, and there's still a missing 82-year-old woman out there somewhere. So,
Yeah. When the Boston bombings happened, the Boston
uh
Marathon bombings happened, the FBI came in. It was handed over to the FBI. And because of that, and I don't know if it's critical thinking or if it's just because they're so used to that, one of the biggest things that helped them was the cameras. And that's why
hmm
it was shocking to me that it didn't seem like Pima County was going after the cameras as much. I mean, just even making a press release requesting the cameras seemed like, why are you requesting? Why aren't you at everybody's door? Like that kind of
yeah,
felt disheartening to me because I remember the Boston Marathon bombings and it really was a question of, okay, let's get this camera. It's like this happened here. Let's get the cameras
yeah.
before, like, let's just keep going. Let's see who was here. And that's how they ended up catching this. And it was relatively fast,
Yeah. Yeah.
very, very fast.
No,
And
that
I
was great
wondered
work.
if
And
you've done that and not put limits or restrictions or rule things out. The ruling things out is the thing that really bothers me. It's like, how you cannot know. So why would you rule something out and just say, well, I don't believe that that's going to be the case? Um,
yeah, you want to overperform. You want to, go above what maybe would be considered adequate,
yeah,
because that evidence may disappear and be overwritten if you don't gather it up immediately, like
yeah,
within 24 hours. So, and we also don't, they were fairly remote where they were. I don't know how many cameras they had available as far
yeah,
as other than Ring cameras.
yeah.
Um, so we don't know. Those are just so many unknown things out there,
They said that
especially
there
if
was
they're older
another
homes.
camera that wasn't a Ring camera, that it was a
Yeah,
camera someplace else. And I believe I heard on some other thing that inside the house, apparently there were cameras, but again, might not have been connected.
like a nanny cam or something,
Yeah, like a nanny cam,
perhaps.
which makes sense, you know.
Yeah.
Um, I have my mother next
Mm.
door. I don't need a camera.
You just go knock on the door, but if you're 20 miles away, you
Yeah,
may
yeah,
want to keep an eye on mom,
yeah. Well, I
So,
tell her she's lucky all the time. I'm like, look, you're totally lucky. I'm like, look at all these old people that live around us and they're home alone. And she's like,
yeah.
but you drive me crazy. I'm like, yeah, but you're here. And I know if you've fallen and can't get up. Like I know, you know.
Give her a whistle. You,
um,
you two are probably very much alike, and that's why you butt heads, huh?
um, it's funny, but no, we are alike. We are alike.
Uh-huh.
But we process and handle things different based on how you know what it was around us.
Yeah.
She has the dark humor, and dad had the dark humor, and I think that that's actually super genetic because you have the same dark humor. Angus has got the same dark humor. You have the same mannerisms. You make the same expressions. And so I think that that's really cool on a genetics wise type thing. But I think that's why
Yeah.
she and dad got along. They have this dark humor. And um, she says some random things sometimes that just has me in tears. She's funny. We just don't see eye to eye on everything. You know, there's just that
I,
generational
I,
trauma
I don't,
of
I
Asian
don't,
mom.
I don't, I don't think my lovely wife has quite accepted my dark humor. So maybe you could tell her it's
It's
a genetic
hard,
thing and I can't help it.
right? It's hard. It's like we go dark. Like I was just talking to a friend the other day and I'm like, yeah, and I was saying something and I'm like, oh my, as I was saying something about I was doing, I'm like, oh wait, I get it where Angus gets it from. And he's like, I was going to say he gets it from you. I'm like, yeah, he does get it from, like, it's genetics. It's just
Yeah.
genetics.
Yeah.
They were trying to establish a timeline in the beginning of this case, and there was all these various versions of the timeline. Like they thought that there was like this missing that from the time that the Ring camera went off to the time that or they got that video from the Ring camera was like a certain time, and from the time that her pacemaker disconnected from her watch was a certain time, so that they believe that there was this is a window. And they've been trying to come up with a lot of timelines from this. And it is interesting because when we're talking about, and I don't hear a lot of people talking about this, when you're talking about the perp being at the front door and he's
Hmm.
trying to get off the Ring camera and he's trying to block it with weeds, which is, I mean, that boggles a lot of people's minds and kind of leans towards the unprofessionalism of like,
Yeah.
that's really weird. And I don't even know, it's just straight. Like, why not even just put your hand? Like
Yeah.
a hand would have
Not
covered
a,
it more than weeds that you could see through. You know what I'm saying? Just doing
yeah.
this would have been much easier than if I
N-
was like,
n-
oh well, you know, you know what I'm saying? It's just like
not a trained kidnapper, that's for sure.
so. And just the way that he moved, like I think that he had like a light in his mouth that it looked like he could turn off with his tongue,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is going to give you DNA somewhere, right? Like he could be
Right.
dripping saliva somewhere, which is why, like, why didn't you take the mat? Um,
Yeah.
but when I hear that the back doors were propped open and this is from Savannah herself, she said the back doors were propped open. And when I look at, okay, we have video of him at the ring camera, and this may or may not be the time. We can't say what the time is,
Yeah.
but it would seem like maybe he was trying to take her out the back. Maybe she passed out, you know,
Yeah.
maybe she couldn't walk and he realized it's going to be too far to go. Maybe the back was the point of entry, but maybe it's too far to go around to wherever his vehicle was, because it would seem like you would need a vehicle. I don't think he was planning on carrying her over the desert. If you're carrying somebody over the desert, you have more chances of being caught because that's just more
Yeah.
time going by. So it
Right.
would make sense to me that he probably had a car.
Mm-hmm.
So the plan has changed. Now he's got to move her out the front door. Um, so I'm thinking everything's already been done.
Yeah.
Everything's already been done. He's already come into the house. Whether he's bound her, whether he's got her that she's not going to run away because he's left her to go
Yeah.
to the front door to try to disengage the light in case he's bringing her up. Now, one thing that I've not heard anybody talk about was how did they find the front door? Was the front door unlocked when they arrived? It was shut, but was it unlocked? Nobody's actually talked about that. But it would
They
just
haven't
make sense
disclosed
that
it.
if
Yeah.
there's blood there,
Mm-hmm.
that he's gone out the front door. So if
Right.
you're looking at the ring camera, I wouldn't say that that's the start of the time that he was in the house. I would say that's towards the time that he took off the ring camera. But I don't think that's the beginning of the assault. You know what I'm saying?
And they may have images of her with him at the front door.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're just not showing that or
Yeah.
disclosing that because for
That's
many different
traumatizing.
reasons. Yeah.
Yeah. Super
Yeah.
traumatizing for the family.
Yeah.
That would be awful. I would not want that
Right.
on there either. So I've
Yeah.
long believed that. Like maybe that's how Savannah knew that she was
Mm-hmm.
wearing pajamas. And that's maybe
Yeah.
how in the interview she mentioned she was taken out of the home in her pajamas with no shoes. Now, we
Yeah.
could say,
How do
I
you know
mean,
that?
how do you know that? One way you could know that is if like I gave my mom a set of pajamas and they were missing and I can account for all her shoes. Sure. That's one way I could
Right.
sit there and say, okay, they took her in her pajamas. However, another way is she might have just slipped because she has seen further evidence. And
Yeah.
I understand that. I totally
Yeah.
understand that. And that could also be something that was in that ransom note to show, hey, I got your mom. This is what she was wearing.
Yeah.
Um, so that's how they knew. But again, probably the proof of life might have not happened because in the course of taking her, something, awful
Yeah.
happened.
Well, an 82-year-old person being startled out
84,
of their
84.
sleep
She's 84.
or 84 is a major trauma to her, and she already had heart issues. So
Yeah.
that may have killed her. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't know. I mean, he may have punched her because she was screaming or something. Maybe that's why she had a bloody nose or bloody lip or a
Yeah.
cut on her head or something, wherever that blood was coming from. We don't know. They may know because they have video of her leaving, but we don't
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah.
So, uh, I mean, there's a lot. There's just, I got to believe that there's a lot of information that they have on this case that we don't know, the public does not know, and they're not showing or disclosing that, which is a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but it just it just is baffling that with what we do have, they haven't been able to somehow zero in on somebody, whether it was through cell phone towers, pinging. Um, Anytime you walk into a room with your phone, anything that has Bluetooth is going to pick up on that, and it
Yeah.
leaves a tracker. It leaves a trace that that phone device was right there.
Yeah.
Um, the FBI collected all that information. So
Yeah.
sometimes it just takes a long time to go through it all and sift through the information until you actually find what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So it just may be more of a long game on this one.
I mean, there's a lot of data that could be taken. One of the things I had suggested, and I got downvoted, and I felt so bad. I felt dumb. Like, and then somebody's like, "Oh, Reddit people are really mean." All I said was, and this was like in the early beginning, I just said, "Well, maybe if she's sleeping and she had on her Apple Watch, if she was abruptly grabbed, it would kind of monitor." That would show up in her heart. Like she had a sudden spike where her heart, and people were
Yeah.
like, nobody wears an Apple Watch to bed. Like, that's so stupid. And I got downvoted, and I was thinking, I wear an Apple Watch to bed. And the reason why I wear an Apple Watch to bed is it records data. Like, I want to know, like,
I wear my Hume to bed.
right? People are like, most people charge it. And it's like, that's the kind of thinking that Sheriff Nanos has. It's like, this is what I
Yeah.
would do. Not let's look at every possible
Right.
outcome. It's you're
Yeah.
just so narrowly focused. And it's like, if you got a sheriff like that, like people in Pima County, Arizona, please don't vote for this man again. Like, I you don't want a sheriff that's very narrow minded. Like, I have no
Yeah.
vested interest in Pima County, but I would say that this is not the man for you. I believe his department, and I'm not trying to
Yeah.
come down on this man, but I believe his department just passed a no vote of confidence.
I don't believe I mean he looks good and everything, but he just doesn't seem to be a competent sheriff. Um
Yeah.
and I hope the people of Pima County see that and do the right thing. But I mean, you never know. You never know.
Yeah.
He uh he he comes across well on the cameras and everything else, but trained police officers have just been shaking their heads and hitting their heads into the wall because of this stuff. And I bet a lot's going to come out later about some of the things that happened.
Um, right now, there's unfortunately, he's kind of done this to himself. There's a lot of coming out about his past, and I'm not really one to go after people's past because everyone's got a past, right? But it's like he's kind of done this to himself just
Hmm.
by yeah, I think that that's the thing, like almost the arrogance of it. And usually I do not see law enforcement. Law enforcement's actually really cool. And this is the thing that I've noticed, that despite the media trying to portray everybody is butting heads with everybody, it seems that law enforcement people stick to law enforcement people. It's like you guys are
Yes.
a part of a different type of a club where
Hmm.
there's a greater good. And I don't see a lot of law enforcement people bashing other law enforcement. I generally don't see, because I think that they understand, hey, there's pressure from,
Hmm.
up above, there's pressure from this, there's pressure from that. But I've seen a lot of people basically in this case have no confidence in the sheriff whatsoever, and are also
Yeah.
as astounded as the public is as as to the decisions he's made in this
Yeah.
particular case.
I agree. Yes, that's that. I think, and you see trained officers or very experienced officers and detectives that are now pundits, and they talk about him, and they're very. There's kind of a line you don't really want to cross. You kind of go there a little bit, but you don't
Yeah,
outright say this guy's incompetent, because ultimately you don't know all the facts necessarily, and you're on the outside looking in, and you don't want to judge somebody without having all the information. And one day we'll all have all that information, and then we'll be able
yeah,
to look back and then make those judgments. But just some small things or some big things potentially that could have been done better, in my opinion. Um, and and I hope the case doesn't hinge on those mistakes.
yeah.
So,
Do you remember when that
yeah,
that billionaire Steve Fawcett went missing? He was like flying a plane, and his plane went missing. Like, he had a private plane. I think it was in Colorado. And
yes,
the area was so diverse that a geo mapping company said, we have all these satellite images, and they crowdsourced it for people
Hmm.
to look for plane wreckage. They just released all these images of that particular time, and literally that's how they found him. And I was
Yeah.
wondering, like, it would be so easy for the Pima County Sheriff to partner up with Google Earth or things like that to do similar. Like, okay, you've got all these people that are volunteering, and he was
Yeah.
basically saying, don't need your help, guys, public, thanks a lot, call in your tips. But
Uh-huh.
it's like, okay, you've got all these people that want to do something, and it's
Hmm.
not necessarily because it's Savannah Guthrie's mom, right?
Hmm.
But it's somebody, like, I think a lot of people, like I said, resonate because it's like somebody's grandma, it's somebody's
Yeah.
mom, it's somebody's, like,
Yeah.
you hate thinking of vulnerable people, getting kidnapped. More people are going to be concerned about a child getting kidnapped or an older person kidnapped
Right.
than a middle-aged person, because a middle-aged person, you have no idea. There's a million outcomes. It's like, oh, they got into some nefarious deals, they had some shady friends, they owe somebody money, they got a crazy ex. But
Yeah.
old people and
Yeah.
children in particular are something that people perk up because it's so relatable. Like, we all know
Right.
children or old people, and I think that that's why this is
Yeah.
so shocking. If Have you ever had experiences of homicide out when you were out in Arizona, um, where the bodies were buried in the desert, and how long might it have taken to have found that?
During a year's period of time, there would always be a couple.
Yeah.
A lot of the homicides that we experienced where it would be out in the desert were some kind of a drug hit, cartel hit. It'd be a
Wow.
body that was typically wrapped up and thrown in the trunk of a car and left out in the desert, and they'd light the car on fire or something like that. And the Mesa helicopter would always do their rounds out in the outer desert before they hit the city, because
Yeah.
they'd always find stolen cars and cars with somebody in the trunk or something. So it happens. Burying somebody out in the desert, man, it's there's so many square miles of extremely harsh conditions and places that people just don't go. Lots of hiding places. It just, if you know the area, it could be anywhere. It could be
Right.
anywhere. Eventually, what happens is that when they find the person, they'll get a hold of their phone or their car, and you can actually, if the car has the GPS mapping system in the car, whether you have it on or not, it kind of keeps track of where your car goes. They can
Yeah.
actually follow that, and they would be able to eventually locate where she was that way, potentially. Same with your phone. Your phone is always keeping track of where you're going.
Yeah.
So that's another way that they could potentially find out where she's at. Or the person just flat out confesses and says, okay, I'll tell you where she's at. And if you don't give me the death penalty, I'll tell you where she's at.
Yeah.
Something like that. So there's a lot of different potential outcomes.
I mean, this may sound grim, but, like, what is the desert terrain like? Like, when people think desert, they think sand. In San Diego, we have the Ocotillo Desert. That's not sand. The Borrego Desert is not necessarily sand. It's sometimes
Uh-huh.
hard surface, because it's been compressed and packed down. What is the Arizona desert out there like? Is it a mixture of, some of it is sand and some of it is hard? Like,
Yes.
how much time do you think that it would take to
Mostly hard,
conceal?
a lot of rock. The places that are soft would be the washes, where the floodwaters come down. It leaves sand, soft areas. The rest of the desert is very hard. It'd take a long time to dig a hole. So um, a wash would be filled with soft dirt and sand. So that'd be the easiest place.
And there was
Yeah.
one reporter, Brian Enton. Brian Enton investigates, and he went into the wash area, and he and I don't know if it was his producer kind of got a little frightened
Yeah.
because there were people kind of camped, like homeless people, like camped out, but there was like some, kind of scary issues of, like, they didn't want to approach because
Yeah.
you want to be respectful too. I mean, if this is a homeless person, this is where they live.
Right.
You want to be
Right.
respectful of their space, but he just kind of wanted
Hmm.
to point out what washes looked like if people didn't know what a wash was. I mean,
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
guess it would be if you knew. And I, as I understand it, there's some washes located behind her house.
Yeah. They're all over. They're all over. And if somebody took her and put her in the car and then she died later, they could have been 20 miles away when she passed away. And
Yeah,
it could be anywhere. It really could be.
yeah,
So, I mean, she may have been alive for a week. She may be still alive. It's just, we don't know. There's so many unknowns in this case. And that's probably why it's captured everybody's attention. There's just,
yeah,
it's just on one hand, it's horrific. It's kind of a fascinating thing to watch and to see and see how this could even happen today. But yeah, it's just a baffling case. I know it kept my wife up at night. Every time her phone beeped, she'd run to check and see if there was an update. It
yeah.
just captured everybody's attention for the longest time.
They initially got this guy a place that was south of Tucson, and it was closer to
Hmm.
Mexico. And they raided this house, and they raided this guy, and he turned out to not be anything of interest. And I thought he was kind of funny. He's like, they said, well, we got you for kidnapping. And his reaction was like, kidnapping who? And you could almost tell by his reaction right away that he had nothing to do with this. It was like you were asking him the most absurd question. But now
Yeah,
he's lawyered up, because he said that because it was so followed and everything, his personal information got out and his past got out, and it's affecting his jobs. And the Pima County Sheriff's Department has not come out and cleared him, and he just wishes they cleared him. And because the search warrant, it's still sealed, and his lawyer has not been able to even see the search warrant yet as to what were the grounds of nabbing him. But as I understand, it's not quite easy to get a search warrant. So
yeah,
there must have been enough. And that makes me kind of think if he was a delivery driver, that he was within that circle. Like, so I have
right.
hope that they are doing what, I Tommy Lee Jones did in The Fugitive, where they're going in the circle, seeing what
Yeah,
cars were in here. And that must be a lot of data, but I'm surprised that 57 days in, there's nothing, like
as
you've
far as we
had
know, as
time.
far as we know,
Yeah, that's true. That
you
is
know,
true.
there may
Be-
be, I, a lot of times these genealogy databases, they've got to go through some procedures before they can access
yeah,
that data. And
yeah,
so that's possible that they have DNA that they're trying to track through family members. They may be watching somebody. They may have somebody. Maybe their uncle took a genealogy test and now they've been able to track it to the nephew who matches the description, and they're watching him every single day right now just to see where he goes. Maybe he's going to go make sure that, um, you know, Nancy is being fed or watered, or check on the burial site to make sure she's still buried or something. They're
yeah,
possibly waiting for that person to trip up and make a mistake. We just
yeah,
don't know. We really don't. And that, I'm hoping that's happening. I hope they have some good solid information.
yeah.
So we're all waiting with bated breath and hoping for the best outcome we can possibly get in this case.
It
So
seems like it would
whatever
be
that may be.
easier to get that kind of data, like I said, because of the area. Like, I mean, she
Yeah.
wasn't so remote that she's far, like, I don't know, like a
Hmm.
5-minute drive. There's a town center that has, shops and everything. It's not like she's
In the
so far out. I
boonies.
mean, yeah, she's not like in the boonies. She's in
Yeah.
a neighborhood where
Hmm.
it's spread out. Um, and I think that even if you went 10 miles
Hmm.
out, that it's still that's kind of same spread out. So if you have a 10-mile radius
Yeah.
in Arizona, you're going to have a substantially smaller amount of housing that you would if you took a 10-mile radius of LA. And so I think that's the part that bothers me. It's like, okay, you have 2 a.m. in this remote part of Tucson near the Catalina foothills. There's only going to be so many cars driving at 2 a.m. out there.
Yeah.
Even if you take all the cameras that you can within a 10-mile radius. And I think that's the part that it's like, but like you said, we might not know. They might have that already.
Start sifting through that. And with the advent of AI, a lot of times you can have the computer sift through that information and pull out every vehicle on camera between this time and this time, from when the pacemaker stopped functioning. It would, how long would it take to get 10 miles? And you can kind of reach out that far and check the traffic at that point. And my guess is if this person was scouting her out, he had been in the neighborhood well before then, and probably during the daytime checking her house out.
Yeah.
Let's see, where does she live? Oh, okay, here's her house,
Yeah.
Hopefully there's some leads that they're following up. We just don't have that information yet. Maybe Sheriff Nanos is brilliant and he's led us all down one path and he actually knows exactly what he's doing. I'm an optimist.
And pigs fly. Oh, no joke towards, cops.
No,
right. It is very shocking to me. I was kind of excited when Karen was into it because I'm like the only one. Like I've been trying to tell Mom and I've been trying to tell Angus and like they don't care. They're just like, that's nice. So they're just, my mom's like, well, why are you on about this? Because like I told her the other day, I'm like, Savannah I was crying. She saw me crying. And she's like, why are you crying? I'm like, I just watched this Savannah Guthrie video. And at one point she said that she had to leave Arizona because she needed to get back to her family in New York. And she said, as the plane was taking off and she's looking over the gorgeous Arizona desert, she just was thinking to herself, Mommy, where are you? And I was a wreck. A wreck because I can't, because that, she's somewhere, but where is she? And it's just like, I can't even imagine the agony that the family's going through. I mean, there was a similar case a couple of years ago with Gabby Petito missing out of Florida. And until they found her, and that was kind of a crazy department too, because they literally were watching this Brian Laundrie guy. And they were watching him. The police they were watching the house and somehow he slipped away, went off to the Everglades and shot himself. And that was kind of shocking that he was able to get away from that. But the good thing was that the family got some closure. And that's got to be a huge thing of just being able to say, okay, I know where my mother is. I could put her to rest. And like Savannah said in an earlier address that she was giving to talking to the would-be kidnapper, on these videos and just saying that, like, we just want to be able to have her so we could celebrate her either way.
Right.
So
do the right thing, do the right thing.
I do hope it works out. I'm going to tell you about the FBI, the possible FBI watch list thing.
Okay.
So when I was younger, I think I must have been in high school. I think I was in high school, and I remember somebody I heard about the Manson murders the first time.
Yeah.
And I thought, what? Like, they murdered a pregnant lady, and like, it was horrifying to me. Right?
Yeah.
And so I'm a book nerd, and at the library they had Helter Skelter, and it was by Vincent Bugliosi, and he was the DA for that case. And I read it, and I think I was just fascinated. I didn't understand as a child, like 16 years into the world, you don't know jack shit, right? And just I couldn't understand how people could do that. Like, what are you talking about? They killed somebody else. And so I got into, when I was very young, just reading about all these cases of serial killers, tons and tons of books about serial killers. And because I would read them and reread them, and they were getting late, and I was getting late notices. And so Dad was saying, we're getting all these late notices from the library of these books, Lisa. And he's like, what books are you reading over there? I'm like, oh, like, I'm just fascinated with serial killers right now. And he's just like, you always pick the weird things, you know? Like, I remember him just sitting there shaking his head, going, you always pick the weird things. And then a couple of years later, he sent me this article where it said the FBI works with libraries flagging like
Oh,
specific books.
oh no.
And he's like, when people check out these certain books, like the FBI is like notified, like if they check out like a succession of all these particular books, it unlocks something that they send it. And he's like,
Oh
you're
my
probably
gosh.
being profiled. I was like, oh.
Yeah, I
So,
wouldn't doubt that.
so no, it was just
Especially in
my,
California, there was a lot of serial killers there.
right?
Very famous ones. Yeah.
I got off the whole true crime thing like 16 or 17. And then
Yeah.
I remember reading, there was an article, I think that because maybe she put out the book, but you've probably heard of her up in Washington. She was very famous up in Washington, Anne Rule.
Oh yeah.
I believed Anne Rule used to work for the Seattle Police Department, but I'm not sure, maybe as a clerk or something, not necessarily an officer. But what was fascinating about Anne Rule was she was writing true crime at the time for like a true crime magazine or newspaper type
Mm-hmm.
thing. She wasn't doing full books at the time, but she was writing a book on basically Ted Bundy.
Yeah.
And what she didn't know was at the time was Ted Bundy was her good friend, and they both work a suicide hotline together. And as she's researching the murders that he's committing, he's sitting next to her and they're pals. And he is a law school student and he's quite well spoken and he's quite lovely to her and quite nice to
Yeah.
her. And it was shocking. So she wrote The Stranger Beside Me. And it was again one of those things of like, how could you have worked with the Seattle PD? How could you be a crime writer and have no clue? So like, I'm always telling my producer Desmond that there's a 50-50 chance he's a serial killer, and he can't change my mind on that. Like he just disappeared and like took off to California and kept extending his trip. He said he went on a walkabout, and I'm like, that sounds so sus to me. Like
That's
it
very
doesn't like
sus. Yeah.
quell my suspicions of you being a serial killer. Um,
I've got an Ann
that's
Roll book sitting right there, Green River Running Red, about
the Green River Killer.
Gary Ridgway. Yeah.
Do you guys have? Do you guys get like like I worked in education for a long time, and we get speakers speaking on various topics that might be of interest to us. Do police departments get like FBI people that once a year come and tell you to what I don't know, profiles of serial killers, what to look for? Like, is that a regular thing or is it kind of a one off? You have to go to a specific seminar for that or a specific TED talk type of
Um,
thing?
no, I mean, if you go to homicide detectives, you go to those schools where they teach you about stuff like that. Um, but in real time, they don't do that unless they're starting to find bodies. There's a
Yeah.
pattern of bodies being found that matches that profile. Then
Yeah.
you've potentially have a serial killer on your hands. So, yeah, it's kind of a bizarre. It's just one of those things that I think the most recent one I remember was near Long Island
Yeah.
where they were
He
finding
was just
bodies
caught.
and
Yeah.
he was just caught. Yeah, yeah.
Do you think that AI
Um,
is helping with police investigations and cold cases now because it could crunch and process data?
oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. If you think about, I think we're catching up on things. So, like, if you think about Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer, his DNA had been swabbed from his cheek back in the 80s, and it was put away because they didn't have the technology then. So it was packed up and put into evidence.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until the 90s that somebody thought, late 90s, like, hey, we took all those swabs of different people and we have the killer's DNA. Let's compare those. And that's when they got the hit. So,
Yeah.
um, it's catching up now, but I think AI is so you can now feed all that information into a computer and do an immediate search and they're creating these databases now and rape kits. The DNA from rapists is going into the database, so you're going to be able to
Yeah.
track that stuff now. So AI is most certainly doing that, helping.
I didn't think about it until you had brought it up earlier because the only thing of AI I was thinking about when I was talking to Desmond about this yesterday, I was like, maybe AI can handle all the I believe Pima County Sheriff's Department got 35,000 tips. And I
Yeah.
thought, well, maybe AI can kind of handle that because I call all sorts of things now and I'm just stuck with AI, an AI bot. Even this like
Yeah.
podcast, like I had an issue with the podcast the other day and I was just with an AI bot forever trying to diagnose this. And I kept saying, real person, need real person. And it wouldn't. It's like, no, I can help you. I'm like, you can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but it does seem to me that like recently they released what I think it was 6 million documents of the Epstein files, right? And there was like these
Right.
people they're saying, we're going to spend the next couple months going through it. And I'm like, why? Like, can't you just feed it into AI and say,
Just
give me the
sift,
juice. Yeah.
data
Just give me the
sift.
juice on
Yeah.
this. Like, what are you
Yeah.
acting like? They had stacks of paper. We're like, we're going to go through all this. I'm like, that seems pointless.
Yeah.
Just throw it into
Yeah.
AI.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can put in okay, search for this name and that has happened and except you don't get the context necessarily of
Yeah.
why that name was with those files. So you have to kind of
Yeah.
go through the whole thing and read what the context was, which there's people doing, you know.
I know that as law enforcement is, there's always going to be people that are armchair detectives, the
Hmm.
members of the public, things like that, that call and give tips and even like, well, I saw. How much would you say, like in your experience, have tips panned out?
Well, I'll tell you this, when people call in tips, you can usually tell pretty quickly if it's a good tip or a bad tip.
Yeah,
Um, and you immediately you get rid of the bad ones that are obviously not a good tip. And
yeah,
then so you just kind of narrow it down a little bit at a time, and then you start getting into the potentially good tips. And sometimes you get tips that are just they're 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 good like this. Hey, I saw that picture you put on Facebook and or Instagram, and that's my cousin Eddie. I
yeah,
mean, it's
yeah, yeah, yeah,
that good. So
yeah.
I
Didn't Ted
recognize them.
Kaczynski's brother turn him in, or
Yeah,
brother-in-law,
yeah,
the
yeah,
Unabomber? I believe it was a
yep.
Unabomber going, he
So,
writes this
so
writes like my brother.
yeah, yeah. So sometimes it's a matter of somebody actually recognizes the person. Sometimes it's, hey, I saw this car and we're at a stoplight, looked over and there was a woman with duct tape on her mouth and here's the license plate and this is what the guy looked like driving and she looked like she was crying and like, holy cow, we need to get on that one
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
immediately. So you can tell when you have good tips and tips from people that mean well, but it's not necessarily good information. So,
Yeah. And sometimes I don't think that you can know how good a tip it is. I believe the Brian
right.
Kohlberger case, which was the Idaho murders,
Uh-huh.
was kind of broken by a tip of somebody remembering a car speeding by at a certain time. And because
Uh-huh.
he remembered the make of the car, they were able to find the make of the car and then I guess talk to the school and
Yeah.
people saying, I saw this car here. And I
Right.
think that led with also the genealogical DNA
Yeah,
stuff.
they had a couple things come together nicely for that case and it just the pieces of the puzzle just fit perfectly. So that worked out. But remember how long that case took to get to that point though. Now
Yeah.
we're looking like, oh, of course, they had to do their investigation. Well, I'd like to think that that's what's happening now. And we're going to you're going to get a headline news that it's been solved or there's been an arrest in the case or something along those lines. Hopefully.
I
Hopefully.
hope that for the family. I do hope that the
Yeah.
family gets some kind of resolution from this. I mean, all
Yeah.
families that have a missing person, I hope that they
Right.
find some resolution to it. Just
Yeah.
they might not have all the answers, um, but they can kind of just at least say, okay, we have them back, because
Yeah.
that's got to be very difficult.
It is, and there's a lot at stake here because if they don't solve this, then that could encourage um, somebody else to do something similar, and that's the last thing you want is that to start happening.
Yeah.
There haven't been any high-profile kidnappings in a long time, so it's just one of those things. You just can't let that be, especially a ransom. If somebody gets a ransom, then man, that makes it so much harder in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then again, you have Sheriff Nanos telling people that this could happen again and creating kind of fear and panic
Yeah. Yeah.
of like,
Not likely. I think it was very specific to Nancy Guthrie because of who her daughter is.
yeah.
So,
My
um,
thoughts in the beginning was always that it was likely possibly a delivery driver or a contractor or somebody working that saw, oh, this is an old lady that lives on her own. More than like, I think that maybe looking, like they said, they found that in 2013, she did a spot with Savannah where she brought people into the house. So you could actually see the layout of her bedroom
right.
online.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it was one of those things where that person saw that first and decided, let me go find out her address and things like that. It was recently reported on January 31st, Sunday's Parade magazine had a little article talking about Nancy Guthrie's worth. Um, I don't find any significance in that relating to the case because January
Yeah.
31st, she was taken in the early mornings of February 1st. Like, I don't think somebody read it in the parade on Sunday and said, I'm going to take her tonight. Like, I
Right.
think that
Right.
plan was already, obviously, they're looking at January 11th. They might look at other things.
Hmm.
But like I said, despite the fact that he looks like a bumbling person, he's evaded law enforcement for 57 days now. And
Yeah.
that's shocking.
He may have taken all the precautions he needed to take, like leave his phone back at home, park a mile away. Who knows? I mean,
Stolen car.
maybe he was a techie guy that just knew all that stuff and didn't want to leave a digital footprint. So I mean, I don't know. I don't know. He wasn't very tactically minded and he wasn't a career criminal. It does definitely
He
can
didn't
probably
move
say that.
like he moved like his
No.
back could hurt a little, like maybe he didn't have a good knee, like when he bent down to
Yeah.
grab the weeds. Again, I still can't get over the weeds. And then I had to, and you know what? I found that these armchair quarterback people sometimes on the internet are so mean. Like, I was
Yeah.
just trying to get into a conversation in the first week because I had questions and I thought, I'm not a regular user of Reddit. Like, I use it mostly to get information on my animal rescues, like, because I
Yeah.
rescue a lot of animals. And so, like, I go to Reddit because there's usually, if it's like pigeons, there's pigeon experts. If it's squirrels, there's squirrel experts. And so I don't usually go outside of that. But I would ask questions. Like I said, it seems strange that he would use these weeds. And people were like, he was using it to pull off the camera. I'm like, I don't understand how. They're like, for leverage, duh. And it was just like, for leverage? Like, what?
Why not grab a rock and then
Like, it
pound it
just
out or something?
like
No.
it just seems strange. And people said, oh, well, like he was like trying to conceal his face when he walked up to the ring camera, he was looking down. I'm like, I think he
Yeah.
was looking for a step. Like, he
Yeah.
had the flashlight, he's probably looking, where's that step? I don't want to trip and fall on my face. But going back to that timeline really briefly, like I said,
Yeah.
it's my belief that when he took off the ring camera, he'd already been she's already been kind of neutralized. And when I say neutralized, I don't mean like deceased, but she's been neutralized where she can't run away. So
Right.
people were really looking at that time of from the ring camera to the time of the watch disconnect being 40 some minutes. And they said, oh, that's maybe the time he did this and that. But if we're looking at prop doors now, and it looked like if maybe she left the back door unopened, he came through that way. He propped the door open to go out that way. Maybe she's dead weight. Maybe he had to hit her. That's why there's blood, because she was panicking. Because my mom is tiny. She's 5 foot ball of Tasmanian devil, and she's not going to go down without a fight. But she has limitations because she's a tiny woman.
Right. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
she's just very tiny. I could pick her up and just like move her somewhere else, like while she's kicking and screaming. Like,
Uh-huh.
and so she might be loud. And Nancy Guthrie she's been a single mom since Savannah Guthrie's 15. She's raised
Yeah.
3 children. She's not like, I'm going to say like a soft woman. That's a hardworking, tough woman. She's gone through
Right.
some stuff. She's
Yeah.
she's going to be, and she's a woman also of a lot of faith. So she's got a lot of strength, internal strength, right? So
Yeah.
she may have gone down kicking and fighting. She may have had a gun herself. Arizona
Right.
you can have guns in Arizona. A lot of people have guns. There's nothing wrong with people having guns. I'm not against people having guns. I'm against 2 things. People allowing to have guns when they haven't had thorough checks of not only like mental health. Like I've had friends that have gone down some bad paths due to drugs, had
Yeah.
likings for guns, and I was shocked at the amount of guns that they were able to purchase when I knew that they had gone down a path of drug addiction. And it was like, how on earth, like, were you able to be sold a gun? And also in the amount of a year, the number of guns you were allowed to buy while, being a drug addict, that was shocking to me. I think that there are responsible gun owners, and I think that there are irresponsible gun owners. So I have, I'm not going to get an issue on gun control, but what I'm just pointing out is that Arizona, you are allowed to have guns. I think that there was a case, it might not have been Arizona, it might have been Texas, where somebody went in to rob like a fast food place, and then all the patrons pulled out their guns.
That was Texas.
And the guy was like, I think was it Texas? And I thought that was like hilarious. I thought that was so funny. It's like, that's a dumb place to try to hold up something. Everyone just pulled out their own guns. But I said that from the beginning too. I'm like, what if she had a gun? And maybe what if she did, I had this thing, like old people are up in the middle of the night a lot. My mom is up at 2:00 in the morning. Her friends are up at 2:00 in the morning because they send me weird old people memes. Like I get old people memes from them at like 3 in the morning. And I'm like, why are you up? Old people are up. I suggested this on a Reddit, and again, I was downvoted. They're like, old people are sleeping at that time. I'm like, I don't think you've lived with old people. Old people are up. They've got bad prostates.
And they
bad prostates. They got to pee a lot. You know what I'm saying? It's just like they get up at the crack of dawn. Like Dad used to get up at the crack of, he'd go to bed like at 8. He'd be up, like I'd catch him reading in the middle of the night. Like I'd go to the toilet and I'd see the light on. I'm like, hey, and he's reading, But I suggested this, and so I've left that Reddit. Like I can't, I'm like, it's tough because you want to get into a nice conversation with people to get information, but people are just so, no old person would be up.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, that's such a closed-minded thing. Like, so maybe she could have got up. Maybe she did have a gun, maybe she did have a gun. Maybe she, surprised him and he hit her. Maybe he didn't mean to hit her, but maybe he hit her because it was like, oh shit, I'm about to get shot. That we don't know what happened in there, but I just believe that if you're looking at 45 minutes from the time of him fiddling with the door to the time her Ring camera disconnected, my better question is how long was he there prior to that, and what was going on? And maybe they know that because they have access to the crime scene. Maybe that tells a different story. But
and I think, you know what would come in handy for Nancy is if she had a little dog, because that sucker would have started barking like crazy.
Yeah,
and probably
I
would have
believe
woke
she
her
had
up.
one, and it passed.
Yeah. So those are good security device. That's another tip.
What other things would you say? What other, like if people are living alone, or if people have like I heard Maureen her name is Maureen O'Connell. She was on, she's a former FBI agent, and she's been on a lot of
Yeah.
different podcasts about this, but she'd given some tips. And one of the tips I passed on to Angus, because I'd never considered it. And I'm like, oh, that actually makes a lot of sense. She says, if somebody's broken into your house and they're trying to grab you, throw
Yeah.
your phone behind or under the heaviest piece of furniture in the room
Yeah.
and leave it on. Like, call the cops and
Yeah.
then throw it under
That
the
way they
heaviest
can
piece of
hear.
furniture. They could hear, and it's going to take, they can't go get your phone immediately. They got to deal with you or neutralizing you.
Right.
They don't have time to get the phone, and you could be shouting. And so, like, I immediately, like, I went downstairs and I'm like, Angus, I need to tell you something. And I told him, he's like, all right, sure.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just
Yeah.
in case somebody's trying to
Yeah.
kidnap you. He's like, all right, Mom, sure.
I've told, I've given that tip to like people that are subject to domestic violence, that
Oh,
if the person breaks in or is breaking in, call 911 and goes, just set your phone down somewhere out of sight, and we'll be able to hear everything that's going on, but they won't necessarily know that 911 is on the line listening.
yeah.
So that is a good tip. I would say, uh, if you have a fenced yard, and you are able to have a gate to keep kind of people away from the house, that's a good thing. Not everybody can do that though. If you can have a metal screen door at your front door, that's an extra layer of security. Deadbolts are always good. More than just the standard locks on your doors. You can always go to a hardware store and pick up extra um, things that you can put on. They make these security. You just talk to the people there, and they'll show you what they've got. But you can
Yeah.
always have extra security there too. Makes it that much harder to get in. Lights. People tend to turn off all their lights outside because they want to save electricity. Well, that's what bad guys want. They want to be.
Yeah.
They're like cockroaches. They do not like light. So keep your porch lights on. Um, if you have areas around your house where it's black and there is
Motion
no
sensor,
light,
even.
then put motion sensor lights up, because the second those suckers go on, they don't know if you saw them and turned on the lights or if it's a motion sensor, and they're going to just
That's
take
what
off
I
running.
said. That's what I
So,
said.
oh, what else? Dogs. If you got a dog, even if you don't have a dog, put up beware of dog signs.
Yeah.
Put a dog house up, something that
Yeah.
makes it look like there's potentially a dog there, because they're going to pass your house and they'll go to the next house.
Yeah.
Um, Cameras, those are always good. Have them monitored. Um, like I can go back in the history and I can see everything that has transpired at my house from all different angles. I've got all the
Yeah.
major entrances covered. I've got the driveway covered to where I could see license plates.
Yeah.
I could see different angles of the person. Try not to have them way up high looking down, because looking at tons of surveillance video, it's so hard to identify people that way. Try to have them more at an angle they're not so high. That way you can make out facial features.
Test them. Maybe get somebody in your family to stand in front
Yeah,
while you're looking at it so you can see how well you can see them. I think that
right.
could be helpful.
What else can you do? You can have an alarm system in your house, even if it's not monitored. If you can have like a panic button, to where if you hit a red button, it sounds a siren.
Yeah.
So if you're being broken into, or there's some prowlers outside, you can just hit that, and whoever's out there is going to go running. It'll scare the heck out of them. Just do things like that. Any combination of those things you can do.
My next door neighbor, she's a widow. Her husband died several years ago, and she's older. She's like a
Yeah.
septenarian, right? But and her daughter lives quite far away, and her
Hmm.
daughter visits often. But I worry about her living next door. So
Yeah.
I told her, I bought her, it was easy just to get off the internet. I got her one of these plug-in doorbells, and it
Uh-huh.
had two different switches. And so I gave her one and I said, put this one in your bathroom and put this
Yeah.
one in your bedroom. And when you press it, because I'm just next door, it rings in my
Yeah.
house. and
Oh, wow.
I can get
Okay.
you. And I said, and
Yeah.
I can come. I've got a key to her house, but I could even call her and be like, are you okay? But it's like a
Uh-huh.
panic button if she fell, because mom and dad had a lot of old friends that died in the bathroom. They had like 3 different friends that died alone in the bathroom. They slipped, they fell, and I thought,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's scary." So I told that to her, and I also bought her these things that cost like $3. They weren't
Hmm.
expensive, and they're on every door. And when the door opens, it just makes an alarm sound,
Okay.
and it's not going to it's I said, "It's not gonna prevent somebody from coming into your house, but A, it might startle someone where they're like, 'I don't wanna deal with this,' and they leave,
Right.
or
Right.
it could give you a second of, like, you hear something, and it's quite loud." We live on a small street here, like, we have alleyways
Yeah.
and stuff to our street, so the whole neighborhood could hear this thing, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I also gave her, this other thing that I got off the internet, was $2, so you can get this stuff on Amazon, which was, it looked like a doorstop, but you
Yeah.
put it in front of your door that if somebody opens the door, it also makes an alarm. I said, so if you
Uh-huh.
don't think that you can afford like home security, there's a
Yeah.
lot of other things you could do, or you could go my route and home alone it.
And get a bar. Get a King Kong bar on your front door.
It's going to it's going to make a loud noise, and I'm on the other side of the room that I can at least grab my Louisville Slugger. I could grab, like depending on what it is.
Right.
I've got spears from a Negrito tribe in the Philippines. They made us spears. So I have like
Wow.
tons of very sharp, like I told you, like if somebody makes it past all my other Home Alone stuff, like you're in a world of hurt. You may kill me,
They're
but you're in a world of hurt first.
they're gonna leave a lot of DNA behind.
They are. They are.
Yeah.
I don't think that's how I'm gonna die. Like if I'm dead or missing and you being, former law enforcement, the first things that you should look into is it was probably my mouth. I probably said something I shouldn't have said.
Well, just temper that.
No,
So
it's just
we're
sometimes I
w-
just say things.
all these things you were talking about, the noisemakers and things like that. Have you ever heard of the OODA loop? You ever heard of that?
No. What is that?
So it's your psychological. That's what you're thinking of. So when you've got a task in mind, you're just focused on that task, and that's all you can think about. So this has to happen, this has to happen, and then this happens. If you can interrupt that loop in any way, shape, or form, it screws the whole thing up. So
Oh
something that
yeah.
suddenly goes off and makes a noise, a little siren alarm, that interrupts the OODA loop, and it just screws that person up, and then they're done. They have to abort. So
Yeah.
anything you can do to interrupt somebody's plan, like a motion sensor light,
Yeah.
a barking dog, any of that stuff is going to increase your safety considerably. So just something to think about.
That makes total sense to me. And that was kind of like my thinking that if they have a plan to do this and this thing gets thrown at them, it's going to
Yeah.
disrupt, right? So what you're
Yep.
saying totally makes sense. We've got a giant garden. Like mom bought an extra like plot of just barren land to make a giant garden. And so we have a giant garden, and I
So you're a
bought her
farmer now.
motion sensor lights, right? Motion sensor
Uh huh.
lights. I put them everywhere and they were nice. Like I bought her solar lights, everything so that it's nice in the garden. And she took them down. And I said, "Why are you taking them down?" And she goes, "I don't want somebody to know where to walk in the garden at night if they're coming to get us." I'm like, "You think that the motion sensor lights that's going to guide the way?" I'm like, "It's to startle them, mom, because they don't want to be seen. They might think, oh, does she have more things?
No.
Does she have cameras here? Does she see me
Yeah.
now?" Like, there's all these other things. And she took them down and I put them back up. She keeps taking them down.
Oh no.
And our problem in this house is that, like I said, she's in the townhome next door. And I think I told you this, like she bought this townhome. And then several years later, like she said, "Hey, the townhome next door is for sale. Do you want it? It's nice to have a townhome in the city of Bangkok." And it was like cheap. It was like 10 grand. Like
Wow.
prices were great 20 years
Yeah.
ago. And so I was like, "Yeah, let's get it." And then me and my ex-husband, we were like in back in LA, and then we came back one year. There was a giant hole in in the wall upstairs. And I was like, what is this, Mom? And she goes, oh, I mean, and she made like a double sliding door size hole. I'm like, what is this? She goes, oh, I thought it'd be nice if our townhomes were
Oh,
connected
jeez.
so I could come in at any time. I was like, Mom, if you need to come in, you need to go walk around and knock on the front door. That's what you need to do. Like, what is this? But we now have a sliding door. We could plug, and it actually was really, really useful. Like as Dad got older, as she gets older, that I can
Yeah.
walk over there and see it. It's great. But for years, I was like, what the hell is this? Like, what did you do? And she's just like, and then the second thing is that when I'm not around, she puts locks on everything. Like I said, out in the country house, she's got locks on both
Yeah.
sides that if there is like something major here, we can't get out. Like it's impossible to get out. Like I've been telling her, I'm like, if there's a fire in this house, like, and we can't find the keys, we're like dead because you have
Yeah.
your way of think. That's why I said me and her are like oil and water because she's just thinking,
Yeah.
well, no one's getting in. I'm like, yeah, but you haven't thought that no one's getting out.
Getting out.
We're not getting out, Mom.
Hotel California.
Right? It's just,
Oh my goodness.
I do want to ask you to come back because I want to talk to you about music because
Okay.
um that's usually what I talk about. But this whole case has been on my mind so much, and
Yeah.
I thought it would be very interesting for people to hear, like, how does law enforcement take on cases like this? Because hopefully not every case by law enforcement is handled the same way as this one's been handling. And it's not to take away from anything that
Yeah.
detectives or Pima County sheriffs are doing. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that they're doing anything wrong. As far as I know, that they're working now together with the FBI, really good. We've seen some
Yeah.
videos of people that look like they're FBI and people that look like they're plainclothes Pima sheriff, maybe going over like, hey, what did you get from this? You know, what did you
Right.
take? They're taking more pictures. And I, from my understanding, it's maybe them saying, hey, what did you do? And hearing and
Yeah.
say, okay, did you do this? Oh, maybe let's go back and
Right.
do this. Maybe that's where that somebody said, let's get the doormat. You know, it can't
Yeah.
hurt.
Right.
Let's get that doormat because it was, and even the Ring camera holder was taken the second time. It wasn't
Yeah.
taken the first time, where people thought, okay, well, he was messing with this. Let's
Yeah.
get that too. Um,
Yep. Yep. All that should have been taken the first time, but here we are. Here we
is
are.
it
We
a
got
lost
the
cause? Let me ask you a second question then. Is it a lost cause? Like, is that going to, if they get a suspect, isn't
yeah.
all this going to make it 10 times as hard for prosecutors because of the way that the collection, the release of the crime scene? Isn't it going to make it so much harder for the
It
prosecutors?
it will give defense attorneys lots of ammunition to have evidence thrown out. It is going to make it more difficult for a prosecutor, but it's not insurmountable. There's different
Okay.
ways you can get around things. So maybe something's not going to be admitted, but other things will be. So it's not like any of the evidence was illegally obtained. It was just potentially contaminated or tainted or compromised.
Yeah.
So that can
Like
be
the pool
worked
cleaners
around.
are still coming weekly, which I,
Yeah. Yeah. It's probably being paid for by the family to do that. I mean, they still want to take care of the place,
yeah. But I
you
mean,
know?
even like the first week, it just seems
Yeah.
like somebody should have said to them, hey, this is a
You
crime
can,
scene,
you
not
can
this
wait.
week. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can
You
wait.
can wait. Yeah.
Like, I don't think that
Yeah.
that would have hurt anything. That's like I don't
No.
understand. That's the part I don't understand. Just like that,
Well,
that's the biggest thing.
they should have never even been able to get on the property because of the crime scene tape if it had been in
Right.
place. So
Yes.
just just s- just things that could have been done better, you know.
Yeah.
Cops are they can make mistakes. Investigators can make mistakes, and hopefully that they'll get past any potential mistakes that were made.
Yeah.
And let's just trust that there's a lot more going on behind the scenes that we don't know about that's leading in the right direction. And
Yeah.
I'm quite sure that there's a task force of FBI and Pima County detectives working on this thing still
Yeah.
daily. So so
I don't think it's a
that's
cold case.
no, not yet, not yet. They're still chasing leads, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So there's
And
just a lot out there.
they can rustle up somebody tomorrow. You never know. They
Yeah,
could be watching
yeah.
somebody. They could.
We're watching our
I mean,
phones.
he could be purposely trying to look stupid and inept, like you said,
Yeah.
purposely. Just
Well,
trying to.
they may be watching this. They may be watching somebody and just waiting for them to slip up. So, or
Yeah.
maybe waiting for information, like leading them to something. So,
Or discarding like a drink and discarding it and collecting that drink.
collecting the DNA. Yeah.
Yeah.
They may have a tracker on the vehicle and they're following everywhere they're going
Because you don't
trying to
need a
find
warrant
out.
for that, correct?
You do. You do have to have a
If
warrant.
he drinks a soda in
Oh,
public.
for that. No.
See?
You don't need a warrant for that. No.
Yeah. So you could just
No.
put a person on following him around to collect DNA.
Yeah.
See, this
Exactly.
is why I don't leave my house.
Well, they got Koberger's garbage, and they got his DNA from his garbage. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Yeah.
And I do want to have you back on for music and stuff, because you went to school with Jerry Cantrell.
I did.
You did.